Yeah. So I made one foil with some trouble. I'm not gonna use a stretch jig or whatever right now. I'm just gonna do a fast floppy method. Now I should have left extra material here on this coil, so I have to adjust that. Okay, and then the idea is, I'm not sure if that works at all. Give it a little pull. This will increase the resonance, of course, but yeah, that should not be a problem. Now, hopefully, let's check. Okay, I'm gonna add this like so. Then I have to be careful when cutting here, because I might cut the coil. Same goes for here. I might need to adjust some things. That's why I made a lot of these panels, because I'm not sure if you can remove this foam tape easily without destroying the panel itself. There's a big chance it will destroy the panel. Oh, another thing that I didn't check or will see, which probably is a problem, is that this foam is probably, it hates heat, I guess, a lot. So when I'm gonna solder the connections, it might like sink in. That might even be a good thing. This way the solder joint is lower, and I don't have to make something on the other side of the baffle to make room for that solder joint. Who knows, but that's not the most important thing right now. Okay, so now I should be able to cut it free. Here goes nothing. So this side is no problem to cut. This side is more tricky. I might just remove the tape instead. So I won't cut the coil by accident. Ah, fuck. I had dirt on there. That's shit. Yeah, when you push on it, which is, well, you flatten out the corrugation here. I am not sure what it does to the corrugation in the middle. It seems, the flattening seems to be within the ridge I added. I hope, at least. If that's the case, I might add a bigger ridge. So it has some tension, which is what I wanted. I'm gonna solder some wires, of course, and see what it does. So I tried different things. I also tried with leaving mylar there to tape to the table, but this becomes like all wobbly when you have mylar here instead of aluminium. So I changed that. And I have trouble cutting it. The first foil I made had like a spacing in between that I had to weed out. This seems to be impossible with such small traces on a plotter, at least for me. So I used the force your knife into the table to cut the aluminium and just move the aluminium to the sides, and that is creating the barrier between traces. Now it has to be seen if it worked out. I changed the blade, so to a 60-degree cutter instead of 45 I use normally for this idea, and I use MDF because it will fuck up your cutting method, and I'm not looking forward to buy €40 cutting mess every time I make a coil. So I thought maybe if I can cut it on MDF, just spoil MDF instead of cutting meth. Maybe hardboard works, but that might be too hard. Which, well, that would be not working. The knife has to sink in a little bit. So if you do this on the cutting meth, which is normally closing up the cut again, if you cut real deep, it won't be able to do that. And that's what's happening to my cutting meth. Poor cutting meth. Oh, the tape fares pretty well. So this is only aluminium solder. I'll add a little dot of normal solder because that usually solders a little bit nicer. You can instantly see the color or the shine change as well. Now I need just to hook up wires. Just some tiny wires. Oop. As you can see, I did not even implement anything to nicely hold this on the back side of the bathroom. I made holes in the back, but I'm pretty sure that won't work out. But I thought, let's first see if we can even make this, or if it even works without having all kinds of nasty distortion. What kind of resonance I'll end up with. Because I did put some sideways tension on there. It might be too much. I always cut these wires uneven length, and the reason is, as you can see, I always use crocodile clips, etc. If they're the same length, you often short out your connectors. Always pre-tin the wires, it makes it a little bit easier. Just changed my tip, which is nice, but this aluminium solder is quite aggressive to the tips. Come on. Yeah, it does solder quite weird on this foamy stuff. Not ideal. I'm gonna add some cyan acrylate glue. So I won't be pulling the wire off straight away the first time I connect it, which might well be the case. Just sort of strain relief. use some accelerator activator from Everglow. Really cheap activator. Normally it's quite expensive. I don't know why. I don't know what's in there, but can't imagine it's expensive. So let's let it do its thing. Let's measure the impedance, and I believe it was 2.5 or something, 2.6. And I'm not sure yet if it is shorted out somewhere. It might be the case. Could well be, but we'll notice in the measurements. 2.5, 2.6. So if you have a tiny, tiny, tiny short and you measure distortion, you get like a in the distortion peak it goes like like a very solid, nice line of high distortion. Then you know it's it's shorting out somewhere. Probably just measuring the distortion from the amplifier itself, I guess. Or a bad connection gives the same result. Like, stop saying like. So if I used, instead of solder, I used this sort of pinching connection with a screw that I used 3-4 years back a lot. If it's not super solid, you have this same distortion as a short or a bad connection. So if there is a short, it's not a solid short as well. It's like a bad connection short. Maybe that's the reason why it looks the same in distortion. So this is the panel, and you can hear the resonance is much higher than a version that is only held by valve and no tension. That's not a surprise, to be fair, but I don't know if I can show you on the laptop. So orange is the Carver style, and brown is this one on top of the speaker. Now, the orange one had 2 more magnets, so that's explaining the more output on top. The fact that the low end on this one is higher compared to the Carver one is the fact that the resonance is much higher, so it will boost the lower end. So the orange one has a, like the Carver style, has a resonance of around 340, and if you increase that, it will increase the output. And that explains why this version has a resonance of 520 and the output is much higher. But this wiggly there does not look good at all. Especially this one here is terrible, and this dip here is terrible. Besides that, it could work. I mean, distortion is not that insane crap. But yeah, definitely something going on that is not nice. So I will make a new one. Yeah. Making new frames because my idea did not work. So these frames will be the Carver style with some things I changed, but I'll explain later.
Gestrest oog, dat je niet gestrest voelt of dat je...
Oh shit. Ah, fuck, it's the wrong side I put on. That's fucking dumb. That's incredible dumb. Fuck's sake. I guess I accept this one as a loss, because I know how this will go pretty badly if I'm trying to save it. Maybe I can save this coil, and then I'll try to do 2 in a row again. So I will try to cut this one free as well, although there is no coil anymore. It would be around 2.9 or 3 ohms, you know. Okay. So I cut a piece there. The reason is so this does not connect with this. I need to clean these rollers. They're sticky at some spots. Makes the corrugation or the foil hold or stick to the roller, then screws it up. Let's see what the length does. Yeah, so this should work. Yeah, I don't like the stuff sticking here, so might give it some cleaning agent and use a brush to clean it up. This is annoying. So I made more of these foils, 6 or 7, I don't know, 2. Yeah, I used a 3D printer and I used Jesus Christ, ironing to make it smoother, the top surface. Now the problem is, well, actually I did all surfaces. The new design has like little notches and things that go in there to line things up. I was saying it screws up the tiny features when using the ironing function. So what it does is it prints the normal thing and then goes with a hot nozzle over it, maybe extruding something more, I don't know, but smoothing it out, which is nice. But yeah, so these do not have the features I was looking for, except for the opposite side that has you know, like a hole here to allow the feature of the other panel to go in there. Now I had these raised features spaced apart the width of the membrane, so I can, you know, line it up without just have to eyeball in. That worked, but yeah, I could get the tolerances smaller. I thought if I do exactly this, it probably is not gonna work, and then I have to print something again. So I took it wider, and now I have to print something again. So in the end, it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure yet if I like this coil. Might gotta redo it. What I don't like is the space here is a little bit large compared to in the middle. I think that could be different. Yes, but I'll show you here a measurement with a small notch at 7K. I don't know where this extra output is coming from at 7K. I think it might be the physical driver size. And I show you here a picture where I added a little piece of carton on the side of the tweeter. And then the response looks way more terrible. So baffle step is really well, I know it's a thing, but you know, yeah, it changes a lot. So I wonder if I should have tested this whole thing in my normal test baffle. But then again, in the end, it should be in a speaker anyway, so yeah. I probably will play a little bit with Edge. Edge is a program so you can simulate a baffle. And then you add the driver size you use, and you can just, move it around to see what gives you the most smoothest response. At the moment, I have it crossed 12 dB per octave liquids Riley at 1000 or something. But I only have one tweeter. I use the old tweeter on the left side, and they are quite similar, except that this one became a lot smaller than the other one. And that's what I wanted. And I noticed I can make this even smaller. I don't need all this space here. Since I'm not gonna glue something on it, I actually don't need all these big ass sides. I do need these and these, because that's where the membrane will be tacked onto, like this. Bloop. The rest I don't need. Hard to see. Here's like a ridge, which is cool. So you can put in, let's see. Here I have a random piece of foam that actually is this size, but you can just put it in here. Line it up nicely. Anyhow, I have to make new foamy bits for this panel. I now used some old foam in the panel I'm playing with right now, which is sticking out of the panel. Normally that's a huge problem. Somehow, this time it wasn't. It was just squished and didn't put the membrane closer to the magnets, which is the other panel. So I don't know what it is. It's kind of weird. I will make new foamy bits, but since my foam is 5mm thick, I could only make 5mm high foamy bits. Until I thought, well, what if the width is gonna be 5mm, and then I can cut it as wide as I want, which will be the height in this case. So that's why the front panel I wanted to have as thin as possible, so the membrane will be as close to the front of this panel as possible. So if I put it on the backside of a baffle, the membrane will not be like half a meter, well, so 8mm away from the throat of the baffle or starting of the baffle, because that looks ugly. So that's why this one is much thinner than the one that holds magnets. Here there won't be fitting any magnets in there, and I make the foamy bit that pushes against the membrane thinner. But I still have to make them. I just put some random stuff I had laying around that I knew was fitting, because this is 5mm times 55 and I can fit it in there. This was actually a rectangular. I cut it up in pieces, so in my new design I only use on the sides. Might change that, who knows, man. So far I don't see any weird things happening. Yeah, so that was one complete failure, and one that looks promising. The output could be a little bit higher, and it might be the foamy bits screwing it up, or I might put the magnet slightly closer to the membrane, especially on the sides, because it's moving less over there. So the magnets will sit in here, bloop bloop. In the middle the membrane moves the most, so I can, put this magnet and this magnet a little bit more forward, which will increase the field. I mean, it's not gonna be insane, but everything helps if you have a single-ended. Yeah. So these are kind of failures, because they don't have the features I was looking for. I might still use them, because it's kind of silly to throw this away just because there's like... I said like again, because I said it a few times already. Because there's a feature missing that is 0.9 millimeter wide. Yeah, I'll keep these for some random tests, I guess. And make a new one right now that is correct. And I need a few more of these. I'm not sure what to do yet, because every piece of baffle I added to the tweeter, as you've seen in the measurement, gives a very nice dip, and of course a peak somewhere. And it's all relative. I mean, it might be 2 dB or something, but it doesn't look nice. I can't remember I had this huge problem with my wicked weird baffle of the mini monitor. So I will model that in Edge. See if I can get it as smooth as that one. If so, then I'm just gonna make this tweeter because it works. But maybe I'll go thinner. Who knows? Because thinner also sounds different. But we'll see. I still have 4 days, so who knows?